So everyone, for today's last entry in day 5 of the 250 celebration, I wanted to do something a bit different because I will be taking a short break after this concludes, and I've been trying to draft up new ideas because I obviously want to make the channel a little bit, I won't say different, but I want to keep up what I'm doing, but I think I need to start turning up the dial, as many of you guys would probably want to see. So probably that means like not delaying the like videos that come out, but making them a bit more polished and balancing it back and forth. I think obviously stuff like What's the Scoop will kind of remain, and I do really want to keep stuff like that going because although I'm not like playing the Digimon card game heavily, I still love it. I want to support the community, so those who still play it, I want to be able to give you information and just let you know that there's lots of good stuff going on. Personally, I feel like it's more so Bandai continues to support the game because I think with One Piece doing so well as it is right now, one of the problems I see is that Digimon will probably get lost on the wayside, kind of like how Dragon Ball Super did. But frankly, I think they're gonna keep it going because Digimon honestly is in its renaissance period right now. I think it's just taking a slow burn, if you guys know what that means. But yeah, I think it's in a good place, and I don't want to stop doing the content. It's just I want to make sure that I'm doing the content that I kind of enjoy doing, and that you guys get to see. I think it's more so when you start expanding out to more people, and you want to try to grow out your channel. You obviously want to appeal to more people, but simultaneously you also want to show that you're doing content you love and you like, and I've been doing that for the most part. I think it's just experimenting isn't bad because the channel's still rather new in my opinion, but and I'm still new to content creation as a whole. So pretty much this video is just covering all that. I started off talking about Digimon because it's not necessarily my primary focus, but it's honestly been one of the leaders of me creating videos, and I'm like just really like happy because it was always an IP I loved, but like if you know about like the big three type of like animations for like younger kids as you're growing up, and as you branch out to be like a teenager and whatnot, if you're talking about specifically anime in like North America, most of them are usually like you catch the creatures, or they're like you're partnering up little monsters, or like your Yu-Gi-Ohs, right? Like card game based stuff. It's like those things that are easy to sell to kids, but simultaneously have some elements. And I always feel like Digimon was that bridge gap show where you definitely know that at least the American versions were meant for kids, but when you watch like the Japanese, the original subs, you're like, oh my goodness, this was probably meant for like teenagers to kids. Like kids can watch it, but man, it's a lot more violent. And I think that's honestly one of the things that keeps Digimon a bit different because it has that edginess that you can't replace. It's kind of like why I think Yu-Gi-Oh did so well for a long time, is that if you're a kid and you grow up, you get to a point where I think you start to think that things you liked when you were younger are like, they're for kids. But then if you watch something like Yu-Gi-Oh, you watch the actual physical show, a lot of times it feels like the stakes are really high. So you think, oh wow, this is more for like teenagers. And when the characters are actually like about your age, like they're 13 and higher, you can kind of make it understandable where you're like, oh, it's not that bad. And I do mean this in the context of growing up, guys. So like I remember being in high school, and that's when Arc 5 was about to start. So for me, I was like, okay, because some people were like, they kind of got off of it. But then I think in my period of time, and since I'm from California, like being a nerd and like liking anime and stuff was actually becoming more big and becoming more widely accepted. So it wasn't like a bad thing to like this stuff. It was more so the times had changed so that it's like, oh, people know about it. It's kind of mainstream enough so people aren't gonna like criticize you for it. But yeah, I think about all those aspects, and it's kind of one of the reasons why some of my content has always been focused around it because I've always just enjoyed it. It's one of those things that I really don't dislike at all because, Digimon's always basically given back to itself. Like, I think one things I hate is that the way that Bandai treats Digimon sometimes, they don't know what to do with it. But then usually they try their best with whoever's like directing or writing or making episodes for shows or whatever. They try to give back to their fans. Like, I think in Adventure 2020, the problem was the direction got lost, I think, somewhere in between. But there were a few like episodes and like different interactions where you're like, oh my god, yes, they gave back. Like I think when probably the best episode I think is one of the best episodes is when Tai and Agumon go through their adventure in order for like his like compass to activate to figure out his crest. Um, that episode was amazing because it does a lot of different like explanations. We see like level 2 Digimon for the first, like well, not the first time, but you see level 2 Digimon in the form of um Bodemon, which is, you know, obviously Koromon's form before, and you see Tai protect him, and then basically it's like relearning the memories. And then I guess it's like a reference art to the original art for Greymon. I think people have seen it before. That art is like really cool. And the big reason I talk about that is it was a showcase, I think, for Digimon to really show how much history has gone into it with Digimon 2020. I think that's like the coolest aspect of that season is like there's a lot of history and time that has gone on since the original. And yeah, the reboot wasn't perfect, but it really settled into being something that we like. So, you know, obviously that's why a lot of my content has been focused around it. And the biggest reason I want to bring it up is for the 1 year celebration and some of my other Digimon projects I've done. Um, a lot of them, they've done okay. They haven't done well. Some of them have been just theory videos to throw it out there because I wanted to see what people in the community wanted to like really focus on. So I think some of the ideas that were bringing up like obscure Digimon, so I think about like my Gaiomon videos, those things did really well. I think because people are just fans of like Samudramon, Gaiomon because he's really, really cool. He's like the Greymon that's not a Greymon. So, you know, it's one of those aspects, but, you know, I learned a lot from doing it. So I guess from the reason I bring it up is that for my 1 year celebration, I kind of talked about how I wanted to add my next like what if series because I did want to finish my original what if series for Imperial Dramon and Omnimon. So I'm actually making this video too when you guys watch it if you still want to see it completed because I have the final like drafts kind of ready. I just think the way that I had done them in their last iterations, I just wasn't 100% confident in them. And I don't think they took off how I wanted to, but it's completely fine. I don't expect always for people to like love everything you do. I think it's just that making them was a lot of work. Like even if you look at it and you're like, it doesn't seem like it's a lot of work. It was a lot of work. Um and I wasn't using anything too crazy at the time for like editing or anything like that. So for me, this was like a lot of work. And starting off, it taught me a lot of pacing and trying to like make a good story. Like adding elements to characters to give them personality and trying to like explain their dynamics. Like there's a lot of stuff that I realize that go on when you're trying to do what ifs. And honestly, it's not easy. Like if people think it's easy if you're using like pre-established characters, but if you're using characters that are in like loose canon, kind of like how a lot of Digimon characters are, if you're not talking about the specific season they're from, you've got a lot of issues. And I mean that literally because it's really hard to say, oh, well, this is how they should behave. How do you know they should behave if they're not the same version of, you know, the characters from the other seasons, right? Like that's another thing that's hard. So you have to kind of input the emotion, the elements, the design into them. So, you know, I am talking about this because I did want to do more what ifs. They're probably going to be Digimon based. That's kind of where like the next one too that I want to talk about was I was really inspired by one of the I think a YouTuber I watched like a couple maybe a year or two ago whenever they had it, but they did a My Hero Academia a crossover with Digimon, and I watched like a few episodes, and it's not like I didn't like it because I actually thought theirs was unique, but I think I want to take it in a different direction if I do it. So I'm putting it out here because like this is also obviously the many ideas of the Theaddarmy. So the reason I wanted you guys to watch it is so like I can get your feedback on what you guys want to see, and because I really think it'd be cool. But if you don't want to see it or don't really care, or you just say, think about it for the back burner, I'll start these projects. Like that's another thing too is I really want to start like making sure the projects that I'm doing are stuff people want to watch, but also like they fulfill a part of me, right? Like that's why I was trying to emphasize in the beginning. Because a lot of the videos that I think maybe some people like they watch them, but they're not really like wondering why I do it or what I'm doing it for. It's just because I enjoy it. It's kind of like why I need to stop doing like it's a good segue for Pokemon, but pretty much that's it for like Digimon. I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. If things ramp up or like I get a chance to like start playing more, you'll start seeing like more like card content. But yeah, pretty much that's it for the Digimon stuff. Let me know down in the comments below what you want to see, what you're thinking about, because I can start to do it. I can start adapting some stuff. I can work on it. But yeah, also for Digimon Adventure Die, I would love to know if people do want to see it, because that's still an idea that I've got roaring in my head. I just need to keep on, like, I need to rewatch like Last Evolution, because everything changes after Last Evolution, in my opinion. So I need to know. But yeah, so let's segue into Pokemon. So for the Pokemon videos, I had to take a break of them. All my What Happened To series, I loved them actually, and I think I'll continue the series if, I start being able to do content creation like more constantly. And I mean, like, I'm not saying like full time, but if I start doing it a lot more, I think I will do it. Again, I think one of the things I didn't like about the What Happened series was that I know a lot of people did and didn't watch it. And this also goes with the What's Up series too. But pretty much, like, I wanted to do it because if I've never mentioned it before, I really have a love for like animals and stuff in the wilderness. And when I used to watch these shows when I was a kid, like on Animal Planet and stuff like that, it was a really big inspiration to me to like really enjoy the outdoors, nature, stuff like that. And I'm not like I'm not a scientist in any respect, so it's not really like I don't think it's impossible for me to talk about stuff like that online. It's just more of, it's easier for me to talk about stuff I know. So that's why I decided to go with like the Pokemon. One of the What's Up With that I'm actually like people should watch because it's really interesting. It's probably the Chatot one, because that one is actually really interesting for what like I found about Chatot and kind of how it works. So it's kind of a toss up, but yeah, like you can use some speculative science because Pokemon keeps on like unveiling little bits of information about other Pokemon that we know or love or don't know too much about every so often. So, it's not like too crazy for me to be like, oh, well, this is from there or that's that, and or trying to adapt it. Like, one thing I did learn, and I do want to kind of mention this for like different like what ifs or different situations. I love it when everyone has opinions. However, well, I'll talk about that when we get to the other segment. But specifically for Pokemon, I love it because I think people can have their own different like ways of interpretation. They can also tell me if I got something wrong. Like, I missed like a big detail in my Zygarde videos. However, I think personally, I get the detail I missed, but it's not necessarily because I forgot it. It was like I had forgot and I left it out in my script, even though I knew about it. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I goofed. And, I just kind of admitted it. But the whole point is, like, I don't really think that people are going to look at it that way. So unless, like, the lore of, like, ZA expands upon it, I still believe that if you tell most people that how many Zygarde cores there are, they're always going to say 2. Like most people say 2, they don't say 5, even though there's 5 of them. And I think the reason it's confusing is if there's 5 of them and they don't make like any type of like usage of it in ZA, I'm gonna be angry. Not because of like the fact that I forgot that fact in my video, but I'm like, well, what's the point of having 5 cores if it's just like a thing that it has? Like they should make aspects of that. Like I would love it if Zygarde has like a form change. Like, I was wondering if maybe that's why it goes from, like, its little, like, pupil form to the dog form to the snake form and then goes into 100%. And I'm like, does that mean there's, like, a 5th form? Like a actual completed, like, something higher than those 4? Because I'm assuming that's what that might be about, but I could be wrong. But my main goal with the whole aspect of, like, Zygarde as a whole for those series of videos is, like, I liked it. And then that was more so just for me just to explain that maybe ZA will have another legendary, because I was thinking, why would it be Z-A? So I'm like, maybe there's another Pokemon that's going to be the focus. Like I said, it would make a lot of sense if Xerneas and Yveltal came as creations to the region, and in modern times, they're revered as the legendary Pokemon of Kalos, right? Because it almost seems strange that in like the anime for Pokemon for Generation 6, it felt like when we got to the Zygarde part, Zygarde didn't feel like it was revered as a legendary. It was more of they were hunting Zygarde for what it possessed. So like Lysander knew, but like the rest of the region didn't necessarily know. It was really strange in that aspect because you would assume that the new legendaries of the region would take some prominence. Like the fact that Xerneas and Yveltal don't even show up for the final battle was weird. but it's okay. Like, I think my main point I'm trying to drive here is there's a lot of things I've learned from doing the creation, and I've really liked it. Like the What Happened to series, I'm continuing it. I just think I'll do it slower because, like I said, doing the next entry for Avalugg and Zoroark, I actually had a great time doing it. I had to do a decent amount of research. I think the hardest part was to make stories for some of these Pokemon because although they have some history attached to them, if they're rather brand new, they don't have a lot of established lore. But some of them have like really good established lore, or they had more information given to us, like something like Basculegion and White Stripe Basculin. That was my first one. The reason I loved it so much is that there was a big way to kind of show what happened to them. And I think I might do it for Overquill at some point and Hisuian Quillfish. But yeah, they follow the same patterns of just these Pokemon ended up, favoring maybe different climates. So they decided to leave their home regions and just kind of live out in different parts of the world. And I think that's amazing because it kind of showcases this really cool like aspect of the Pokemon world reflecting our own world where the climates change and like this is kind of natural too, I think. The world happens to slightly change to where like creatures liked it before. But instead of the creatures, just going extinct, they say, "Hey, let's get going." So like I talk about this with Hisuian flight and stuff like that. They're theories I just created for like the videos to give them more depth. But like scientists would actually call stuff like that, they would say, "Oh, well, there's different things and phrases they would use." So I use those as bases for that. So just letting you guys know, I'm not a scientist by any means, but I do like to try to use the scientific terms if they exist enough, just so that it makes it a bit more realistic for the videos. Yes, obviously the creatures aren't real, but when you're watching them, is that really the aspect about it's about escapism and trying to enjoy it. It's like the people who do that like Pokemon Earth videos. I think I've seen them. Those things are cool. Like that's kind of like if I had the time, resources, and money for it, that is kind of what I would want because I was like I would really enjoy it if this is even an idea for the Pokemon Company. They could just have people, like different voice actors, voice over the Pokemon Earth videos. But they'd have to give them some realism. Because I think with Hisuian Arcanine, one thing I liked is the realism of, the combination of it. So a good example was in Legends Arceus, the Arcanine that was the original lord of the volcano died saving its child, and then its child swam across the ocean to the Fire Spit Island. So that aspect is left into my story about how they swim across the water, even though it's dangerous because it shows that they have the endurance to get to the island where they can evolve through further firepower or the firestones they find. But additionally, as well, I love the fact that maybe it shows that Hisuian Arcanine is a predator because it wanders around maybe in search of prey, and it can hunt different creatures. Because I actually would love a Pokemon Earth video talking about it, kind of like how Walking with Dinosaurs did the one with the pterosaur, I don't know, the Ornithopyrus. I can't remember the episode right now in my mind, but basically having an episode about Hisuian Arcanine being dominant and then going extinct because the shoreline is just something cool to see, like a fire rock cladded dog running across while it hunts for like I don't know Spheals or something, and then you're just like this is the time of the king, but the time of the king is ending, and then it ends with either Fire Spit Island going away and the volcano stopping, so there's no more like fire, so all the other fire Pokemon are spread out from different places. Like basically they could also explain some lore to explain what happened because like I said, Fire Spit Island, there's no confirmation where it is. I think it's supposed to be the Pokemon League, but I could be wrong. Because if it's the Pokemon League, then that means the volcano just went dormant, which is cool. But I would love it better if like something happened and it sank to the bottom of the ocean, because then it'd be like, oh, well then now it makes sense that the drastic change took place in the climate for Hisui, because with the volcano gone, no longer spewing the rocks, different minerals are gone, and then subsequently like everything else starts to happen. Like it starts to heat up a bit because I always say like it was Ice Age period ending, so the glacial maximum ended. So I always thought Sinnoh was like more tropical slightly, not really like super tropical, but more tropical. Like it's a lot more warm because there's only one place with snow. Even though I know it's based off Hokkaido, it's like you could argue that it got more tropical because I'm thinking it's more like it got more temperate. Is probably the better way to look at it, but that's kind of the way I view it. Is like, oh, the region changed, and then now it's like modern science stuff. But let's get off of that. Let's move into Beyblade because I want to talk about Beyblade. I actually enjoy it. I was kind of teetering on the edge of doing these videos before. Honestly, the one creator that got me going was when I watched Wildfang edits videos. Yeah, they're really short, but like they get to the point, and they're kind of the reason that I think the Metal series for Beyblade is arguably, I'm not gonna say it's the best, but I'm saying it's like the most like fan favorite and well renowned. But it also could just be a product of the time, because I think a lot of people who remember Metal series as a kid or like growing up, this was like their Beyblade, right? Because I remember original Beyblade coming out when I was like a really young kid, and my brother had Beyblades and I had like original Beyblades. But the point was, it was more of a product of that time period for my brother than it was for me. So by the time I ended up like becoming about like, usually the age range they're aiming for is like 8 to 10 in my opinion. 7-year-olds can play it, but I'm like, come on, like you're probably like a 10-year-old or something if you really want them, or like to make the most out of it, or like 8. In 10-year-olds cases, in my case, Beyblade was really not there yet. But then the following year is when Beyblade really ramped up, because when I turned 12. That year was when Metal Fusion finally came to like America, like NA or America specifically. And I remember seeing the first generation wave of Beyblades that were released, because everybody had like, they had Pegasus, they had like Dark Bull, they had Leon, they had stuff like that. And I was like, oh man, I guess I got to go get a Beyblade, because people are actually like Beyblading at lunch, and it was kind of crazy. So I ended up going, like I said, the whole story is I went to Walmart, and I just remember being like, I need to get like a Beyblade. And if I remember correctly, it was between Tetsuya and it was between Doji. And I'm like, if I had known better now, I probably would have actually got Dark Dasher instead. But because of, you know, the way that Tetsuya looked versus Doji, I was like, okay, I'm getting this one because this guy looks cool. And I got Dark Wolf. Honestly, this the funniest thing was when I got home that night, because I remember it was the first time I think I tried to put a Beyblade together by myself. So I actually struggled to put it together. Because I didn't read the instructions. I mean, what 12-year-old would? You just think you put them together. But I felt really cool once I put it together, because I did it all by myself, and I put Dark Wolf together, and I was like, that was cool. Then I proceeded to play with Dark Wolf, and it sucked. But that's not really the point. But like I said, the whole point I'm bringing that up is that there was so much like fun put into it, right? Like I enjoyed that so much. And I remember watching the show like on TV, so it was cool. I didn't get to watch it all the time, because I think that was the time I realized I kind of like sleeping in, even though I was a kid and I was becoming a teenager. I realized I like sleeping in on like weekends, so I said, don't care about cartoons. Like I didn't care about like, it was weird because I know Saturday morning cartoons is more of like an older person's thing, like what they remember. But during the time in NA, it's like they would put like anime on in the mornings. Like I remember one point it was ridiculous. I think Pokemon was on at like 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And I'm like, what kid wants to get up at like 7 a.m.? But like the whole point I'm trying to get across here is I really did enjoy like Beyblade. And I was like, I like to watch it. I like the Metal series because I watched it enough and it was cool. Um, and ultimately, I think it was a big reason why I'm doing it on the channel now. I could maybe do, because I've actually watched a good amount of original Beyblade. I could do videos on original Beyblade. My only thing is a lot of people need to watch original Beyblade, because it's besides the second season kind of like being all over the place in a few parts. I really think it's a masterpiece from season 1 to 3. Like I think the writing, even though like the dub writing that they had, it carries all the characteristics you'd want in like a really good show, and it's just kind of crazy. Like that's the thing I liked about original Beyblade when I watched like season 3. The season 3 really does showcase, I think, growth of all of its characters and development for, like, or at least its main cast. It shows growth and development, but it kind of shows you the importance of growing up, which is like really weird because you usually don't get that in a show like that, but you do in like Beyblade, original Beyblade. So I'm putting it out there for you guys. You haven't watched it, give it a shot. But yeah, like also people are very opinionative on Metal Fusion battles, and I kind of don't understand why. There's a specific comment I read. I just don't really understand it, but it's more of You know how like when you're watching something or you're watching anime and you see two characters fight and you're like, well, they have all the tools to defeat another character, but then simultaneously you're like, but they're not gonna win. And it's just like someone's like, no, but they have like they can do this, they can do that. I'm like, yeah, but they're not gonna win. That's like the whole point. It's like there's plot armor involved. And then the worst part about this specific situation I'm talking about is there's a specific matchup with characters that a certain character can, in my opinion, there's like no shot, 100% chance they can't win. Doesn't matter if they have the special techniques. It doesn't matter if their special moves cancel out the other ones. I don't think there's any way that they beat the other opponent because there's no like feat to scale to say, oh, well, they're going to defeat their special move. There's no feat to scale saying they can't counter this person's special move. Like, I'm only bringing this up because I don't like getting into comment battles with people because I'm like, it's kind of a pointless thing. I like to take people's opinions and kind of just roll with it. But sometimes I see people's opinions and I'm like, I feel like it's like after being a Yu-Gi-Oh player for so long, it's like people could say it's like it's cope, like they're coping. Because like that's one thing I always find hilarious is when people are like coping, they're just like giving me a bunch of reasons for something, and I'm like, no, that's cope. Like you're not really saying anything or proving your point. You're just saying a bunch of stuff to try to turn it, and it's like, tell me where that would work. Like that's the funny thing about the Beyblade ones. I'm like, tell me where this person beats the other guy, and it makes sense. And I'm like, and it's like not like artificial power ups that I give them in the video because I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, there's no way half the time, but it's okay. That's just a little bit of that. Geez, talking about everything else. I mean, my Godzilla videos, I want to keep them going. I think the problem I have with Godzilla videos now is just I don't want to like do them and not like dedicate to them because I actually like the fact that when like my Yu-Gi-Oh videos are staying on Rumble for the most part, except for the ones that you will see like you saw yesterday. I put that out there because I wanted people to see kind of what's going on like there because if you do feel like watching it, go ahead. But if you do use Rumble for whatever reason, you're watching on YouTube, and you're like, there's not like a lot of content, different content on here. Like, go check me out. Like the thing is, I think there's enough Rumble creators where there's not like a huge community specifically around each other, but there's enough like different creators for like these different like things, not like the typical stuff you're thinking about, but for like anime and the different things, there's enough on there for you to like, if you want to feel like you want to give a different type of positioning a shot, I would say go ahead and like look up the Rumble creators and see what they've got because I'm putting out vlogs sort of, and I'm putting out like my videos. What's the Scoop is going to be on there soon with like Yu-Gi-Oh content. So, give it some time. But my main goal is, Yu-Gi-Oh staying there. I think Godzilla's going to stay there, but come to YouTube. So it's going to be like that. And then YouTube videos obviously will end up on Rumble as well. Just kind of showcase to the people what we've got here so that they can like go back and forth. Like I said, I like the fact that people can use more than one platform. I mean, people do it every day. Like people go to like X or Twitter, they'll go on like Instagram, they'll go on like YouTube, they'll go on Rumble, they'll go, what I mean? They'll go to like lots of places. So my point here is if you feel like using multiple platforms, try it because you might see something you've never seen before on another platform. Just like I always say, be safe. Not every platform is, for that. Like I think about Kick because like I don't hate Kick. It's just I feel like it creates degenerates. But I think it's because like there's no limit. They should really limit some people's because people be doing some wild things. So yeah. But ultimately, yeah, that's basically it, guys. Like for the many ideas. If you want to see something or want to ask me about something specifically, like maybe I want to do a video on it, shoot it down below in any of the comments. Don't be too random, obviously, because like if it's something like way too random, it's not like I won't respond. I'll just be like, okay, and just kind of like move on from that. So give me like ideas I think would be kind of based around the content we have, or if you want to give me some like criticisms or opinions to like go in different directions, please let me know because I am being honest here. I don't hate it. Honestly, I think I get more mad about ridiculous opinions, not really criticisms. So like I'm talking about the Beyblade video one. I'm like I just don't get. I'm like I don't understand what this guy's trying to prove because his logic isn't really there. But hey, like I said, I get more opinionated on the things that don't matter. So yeah, let me know below. But always, this has been Brad from the Theaddarmy signing off. And for all of you out there, to sign on.